Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to share what's new with FarmBot Express and Express XL version 1.1. Then we're going to do a complete unboxing and assembly. Let's get started. FarmBot Express and Express XL version 1.1 include several major improvements over the version 1.0 design, including a new Farmduino featuring built-in Ethernet connectivity, USB Type-C camera ports, and new peripheral connectors. Our new vacuum pump design with an integrated EMI filter, which reduces potential electronic interference. A new 100-watt power supply and a 3-pin power supply cable, which provides protected earth grounding for the system. We've also reduced the size of all 3 cable carriers, allowing FarmBot to spend less energy when moving throughout the bed. And finally, we've revised our packaging design to fit all of the major subassemblies into a single cardboard tray insert, reducing the overall size and weight of the package by about 20%. Both kits ship in a single box, with Express weighing 37 pounds or 17 kilograms and Express XL weighing 40 pounds or 18 kilograms. Let's take a look at what's inside. Both Express and Express XL come 95% pre-assembled in the box. This here is the left gantry column with the electronics box. Here is the right gantry column. This is one of the gantry main beams. There's only one included with Express. If this was an Express XL kit, there would be a second one in the box here. This is the Z-axis and cross-slide subassembly. And here are the X and Y cable carriers with the cabling and tubing pre-routed through each of them. In addition to the subassemblies, there is also the power supply, the power cord protector, and a small box of additional parts. In the small box, you'll find the Getting Started guide with links to our online resources, the camera calibration card, the assembly tools, as well as the belts and a variety of screws, nuts, and other hardware. All right, so that's everything in the box. So let's take it outside and begin the assembly. So in this video, we're gonna be installing our FarmBot Express version 1.1 device on this raised bed. This is a mobile raised bed. We have instructions for how to build this exact setup on our documentation. This bed is 3 meters long and just a little under 1.2 meters wide. So it will allow us to build our FarmBot Express device to the maximum size dimensions. We've already prepped this bed by putting in nice soil. And next we want to sand the top edges of the bed. FarmBot needs a smooth surface to roll across, so take a sander or sandpaper and smooth out any rough areas or knots in the top long edges of the bed. It's also important to ensure that both of the long edges of the raised bed are straight and parallel. If you're working with an older raised bed that is bowed out a little bit, you may need to shore it up with tensioning cables or add additional lumber. After sanding, you may want to apply a stain or polyurethane sealer to the top edges of the bed to protect them from the elements if your FarmBot will be outside. All right, let's move on to the assembly. If you have an Express XL kit, it will have come with 2 gantry main beams. To join them together, grab the gantry joining bracket and loosely attach the 2 140mm nut bars to the back using 8 M5 by 10mm screws. Then slide the gantry joining bracket and the nut bars into these 2 slots of each of the extrusions. This surface of the gantry joining bracket should be in line with this surface of the cable carrier supports. Make sure that the center of the gantry joining bracket is lined up with the 2 extrusions, and push the 2 extrusions together such that there's no gap. Then tighten everything up. From here on out, we'll be assembling a standard size FarmBot Express unit that's 1.2 meters wide and 3 meters in length. If you've got the Express XL kit, don't worry, everything else from this point on is exactly the same. Start by positioning the 2 gantry columns along the long edges of the bed. The left gantry column is the one with the electronics box. We want this one to be positioned on the edge of the bed that has the cable carrier supports. This is also indicative of where the home position of the FarmBot will be. It will be in this corner of the bed. And the right gantry column on the other side of the bed. Next, position the gantry main beam across the long edges of the bed with the gray cable carrier supports facing the home position of the FarmBot. Grab two 60mm nut bars and 4 M5 by 10mm screws. Lift up the gantry column, and we're going to loosely attach the 2 nut bars on this side of the gantry corner bracket in this orientation. So just take the M5 by 10mm screws and hand tighten them just a couple of rotations so that the nut bar is loosely attached to the corner bracket. Now grab the gantry main beam and slide the 2 nut bars into the lower 2 slots of the extrusion. Remember that the plastic gray cable carrier supports should be on this side of the gantry main beam. Now repeat the process for the other gantry column. With the wheels positioned on the top surface of the raised bed, press the gantry wheel plate all the way against the side of the bed. Take a step back and make sure that the gantry column meets the gantry main beam at a 90-degree angle. You can make some small adjustments by hand and then tighten the M5 by 10mm screws using the 3mm Allen wrench included with the kit. Position the second gantry wheel plate about 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch away from the other side of the bed. Then align the gantry column with the gantry main beam at 90 degrees and tighten the M5 by 10mm screws. Next, we're going to attach the 52.5mm cable carrier mount to the cross slide plate using 2 M5 by 20mm screws and M5 flange lock nuts. Hand tighten the nuts onto the screws, and then use the 3mm Allen key and the 8mm thin wrench to tighten everything up. Now take the Z-axis and cross slide assembly and carefully slide it onto the gantry main beam from the side of the gantry without the electronics box. You can see here that you'll need to hand rotate the lead screw so that the Z-axis raises a little bit, allowing the 3-in-1 tool head to move past the gantry wheel plate. If there is significant resistance pushing the cross slide onto the main beam, don't force it on. You'll need to adjust the distance between the upper and the lower V-wheels by using the 8mm thin wrench to adjust the eccentric spacer on the lower wheels. Position the wrench and give the eccentric spacer 1/8 of a turn and check again. You may need to do this a few times until the cross slide rolls on. The cross slide should be able to roll smoothly, so make a few more adjustments until it feels just right. There should be no wobble in the system, but it should also be able to move freely. Next, we're going to attach the Y-axis belt. The Y-axis belt is the shortest belt in the kit. Start by sliding on one belt sleeve onto the belt. Then take one of the belt clips and route the belt through the slot in the clip. Fold the belt back over onto itself such that the teeth engage, and then slide the belt sleeve over that section. You can slide the belt sleeve all the way up to the end of the belt clip. Next, attach the belt clip to the end of the extrusion using a 20mm nut bar and 2 M5 by 10mm screws. Before tightening the belt clip, double check that the tab is positioned such that it will act as a physical hard stop for the cross slide plate. Also check that the belt's teeth are facing down towards the extrusion. Next, take the free end of the belt and route it underneath the first V-wheel on the cross slide. Make sure that there are no twists in the belt as you route it. Then route the belt under the remaining 2 V-wheels and over the Y-axis motor pulley. Then secure the end of the belt to the other side of the gantry main beam using the same method as before. You may need to have a little bit more overlap this time. The tension on the belt should be about the same amount of tension you use when tying your shoes. Next, lay the Y-axis cable carrier onto the cable carrier supports across the gantry main beam. Attach it to the cross slide and the cable carrier support nearest the electronics box using M3 by 16 millimeter flathead screws and M3 lock nuts. Next, take one end of one of the X-axis belts and route it down through the large opening in the gantry column. You're going to route the belt all the way through until it pops out the bottom. Then take the other end of the belt and route it over the pulley and down through the other hole in the gantry column extrusion. Feed the belt all the way down through to the bottom. Feed the belt under both of the idler pulleys and then under each of the wheels at the front and back of the gantry wheel plate. The teeth of the belt should be facing down towards the raised bed. Now we're going to attach the end of the belt to the raised bed using another belt sleeve and belt clip. Position the belt clip on the raised bed such that the tab will act as a physical hard stop against the gantry wheel plate when the FarmBot moves all the way against the home position. Secure the belt clip using 2 of the provided wood screws. Then repeat with the other end of the belt on the other end of the raised bed. And remember, the tension on the belt should be similar to the tension used when tying your shoes. Repeat the whole process for the second X-axis belt on the other side of the FarmBot. Next, lay the X-axis cable carrier onto the wood cable carrier support and attach it to the gantry using M3 by 16 millimeter flathead screws and to the wood cable carrier support using 2 wood screws. It's now time to start plugging everything in. Let's start with the Y-axis motor cable labeled Y. Route it through the belt and then the slot in the cross slide plate and plug it in to the Y-axis motor. Next, we're going to plug in all of the cables coming from this cable carrier into the corresponding cables coming out of this cable carrier. We'll start with the vacuum pump cable labeled VAC. So find the other cable labeled VAC and plug these 2 together. Next, we'll do the camera cable labeled CAM. Plug those 2 together. And finally, the Z motor cable labeled ZY over here and ZZ over here. When screwing these connectors together, you may need to push them together, tighten the thumb screws, then push together a little bit more, and then tighten the thumb screws one final time to get a fully connected connection. And last, we're going to connect this water tube to the water tube over here with this 90-degree barb. You can push extra cable length through the cable carrier and pull it down at the bottom to organize the cables just a little bit better. And you can also push extra cable through the Y-axis cable carrier and out the other side to make for a cleaner installation. Next, press the tube coming from the Y-axis cable carrier onto the brass adapter on top of the solenoid valve. Make sure to press this all the way down onto the barb. And press the tube coming from the X-axis cable carrier onto the bottom brass adapter on the solenoid valve. Insert the rubber gasket into the brass adapter labeled GHT, that stands for garden hose thread, And then attach the brass adapter to the garden hose that you'll be using with your FarmBot. Last, take the water tube coming from the X-axis cable carrier and push it on fully to the garden hose adapter. Next, take the X2 motor cable that was included in the small parts box and connect the white connector to the X2 motor. Route the cable around the gantry column and then through the cable carrier supports. Pull all of the excess slack through and then just place it right here for now. Remove the LED strip from the plastic reel and grab the end with the connector and feed it through the cable carrier supports as well. You want to make sure that the LEDs are facing down so that when the FarmBot turns the LED strip on, all of the light is cast down into the growing area. Next, take all of the cables coming from the Y-axis cable carrier and route them between the electronics box and the solenoid valve mount. Now we're going to route all of the cables up through the slot in the bottom of the electronics box and plug them into the corresponding locations inside. You'll want to remove the super gland from the slot to help in pushing the cables through here. From right to left, the cables are going to be the camera, the 4 motors, the 3 peripherals, and then the power supply cable. So let's start with the camera. That's the USB Type-C connector labeled CAM. You can feed that up through. And you're going to connect the camera to one of these 2 vertically oriented USB Type-C ports. So we'll plug it into this left one here. Next, we'll do the motors. Let's find the Z motor cable. It's labeled ZY because this cable is a 2-part cable. This is the Y-axis portion. We'll feed that up through, connect it to the Z motor. Next is the Y motor cable, then the X2 motor cable, and the X1 motor cable is already connected from the factory. Next, we'll do the lighting peripheral. The solenoid valve is already connected, and finally the vacuum pump. And last, we'll plug in the power supply cable. You'll definitely need the super gland out to fit this one through. Route that all the way up, and it plugs into the board in the top left corner. Now let's get the super gland back into the slot. This might be a little bit tricky. Recommend starting with the back half first. There we have it. Just remember the super gland should be a pretty tight fit because it's designed to keep bugs out of the electronics box. And once you have it in place, everything should look nice and lined up just like this. Your FarmBot will come with FarmBot OS pre-installed onto the micro SD card. However, there have likely been updates to our software since we shipped your kit to you, so we recommend removing the micro SD card by sliding it out to the left and following our online instructions to flash the latest version of FarmBot OS onto here. Once you've completed the installation process, insert the micro SD card back into the Raspberry Pi. Next, mount the power supply using 4 wood screws. And then connect the output of the power supply to the power supply cable. You're now ready to plug your FarmBot into a GFCI protected outlet. If you're installing outdoors, you may need to use an extension cord of the appropriate length in combination with the included power cord protector. Once you've secured the connection inside the protector, you'll want to mount this somewhere such as underneath the raised bed. If all has gone well, FarmBot will now begin booting up and you should see a green power light on the Raspberry Pi, a blinking red e-stop button, and a flashing blue light on the Farmduino indicating that FarmBot is now ready to be configured and connected to your home Wi-Fi network and your FarmBot web app account. At this time, because FarmBot is powered up, You shouldn't unplug or plug anything else into the electronics box unless you first power off the FarmBot. And with that, we can close up the electronics box and call the assembly process complete. For more information and next steps for configuration, please visit our website at docs.farm.bot. Thanks.